Welcome to Larry's Library. It's the first Tuesday of a new month, and it's time for a new Top 10 Tuesday. This time, we're taking a look at the year 1985. A few notable things from 1985. We Are the World, a charity single, was released. This was to raise money for Ethiopian famine relief. And it had a huge group of pop stars, pop singers, and it reportedly brought in like $20 million. Another notable event was Live Aid, which was similar but larger in scope. This was a giant benefit concert, and it was also to raise money for Ethiopian famine relief. It was broadcast worldwide in 1985 to an audience that was around 1.5 billion viewers. October 16th of 85, Intel introduces the 32-bit 80386 microcomputer chip. About a month later, on November 20th, Microsoft Windows 1.0 was released. And look how far we've come today. We're on Windows 11, and I think 12 is right around the corner here. So take the good and the bad. But what a crazy year for movies 1985 was. Some of my favorites from that year were Terry Gilliam's Brazil. This dark dystopian, but yet somewhat funny sci-fi, just tremendous movie. Not enough people have seen this one or talked about it, so if you haven't heard of Terry Gilliam's Brazil, check that out. John Landis's Into the Night came out. Jeff Goldblum, Michelle Pfeiffer, David Bowie. Oh man, what a great movie that was. Title song by B.B. King. Great movie. Lady Hawk was 85. If you've watched this channel much, you've heard me talk about how much I love Lady Hawk before. Rutger Hauer, fantastic. Matthew Broderick, yeah, and Michelle Pfeiffer. There's two here with Michelle Pfeiffer. Back to the Future, the first one was 85. George Romero's Day of the Dead came out in 1985. Another great one. Fright Night, the first Fright Night was 85. Martin Scorsese's After Hours came out in 85. Great Griffin Dunn movie. Wow, what a great movie. Silver Bullet came out in 85. Great werewolf movie. Gary Busey's in that one, I think, if I remember right. Ridley Scott's Legend came out in 85. Just so much good stuff came out in 1985. I'm sure I've missed some of your favorites. Name yours below if you want. And these are my top 10 favorite comics of that year. Now, this countdown is not to say these are the most influential comics of 85 or even arguably the best. These are just some of my favorites from 1985, and I've tried to put them in order, but that is a shifting thing, but we'll get right into it. At number 10, I have Nathaniel Dusk 2, Issue 1. So this was a follow-up miniseries to the first Nathaniel Dusk series. It came out, I think, in 84, and that's in my previous top 10, which I'll link below if you missed that one. And up above, I'll put as much links in there as I can to previous 80s top 10s, because I have started with 1980, and I'm working my way forward. And so there are, if you haven't seen any of the previous ones, go get caught up on those, please. So Nathaniel Dusk is a gritty detective series, and if you take a look at this cover, it has the awesome Art Deco design there with the lettering and everything. I just love it. This was such a beautiful series. And this one, just like the previous one, this is shot from the pencils. So there are no inks here. And it was a pretty unique way of doing something and kind of unheard of in 85. It's done more often now, I think. But in the first Nathaniel Dusk, the colors were a little bit too much for the pencils, and the pencils kind of were lost in certain sections that got a little muddy. But they've improved the technique for this second one, and it looks even more gorgeous. It is beautiful stuff. If you well, I didn't even say who this was. This is written by Don McGregor, just like the last one, and the phenomenal art of Gene Colan, the master. And his style is even more enhanced here with a little bit better technique. Like I said, no inks, colored directly over his pencils, and it's beautiful. At number 9, I have Marvel Fanfare issue 20. Check out this cover. Now, this cover is drawn by Jim Starlin and inked by his buddy Al Milgrom, and I think it's gorgeous. Love to have a poster-sized version of this. Nice. Of course, I'm running out of wall space in here, so I don't know where I would put it even if I had it. So, yeah. But there is more than one story in this book because it is an anthology series. So each issue normally has at least 2 stories and pinups and other extras, and sometimes there's 3 or 4 stories in an issue. But I'm mainly talking about the main story here, which is written by Jim Starlin, with art by Jim Starlin, and it is awesome. You have Doctor Strange and the Thing battling demons across all these different dimensions and whatnot. It's great, and that's why it is number 9. At number 8, I have Cloak and Dagger's second miniseries, and this is issue 1 here. Of course, written by Bill Mantlo, the creator of Cloak and Dagger, and art by Rick Leonardi, with beautiful inks by Terry Austin. Just gorgeous, gorgeous art here, and a fun story. At number 7, I have Rocket Raccoon number 1. Now, this is the miniseries, and I think it might be his 3rd appearance, if I'm figuring that right. I believe it's Rocket Raccoon's 3rd appearance. And this one is written by Rocket Raccoon's creator, Bill Mantlo, with art by Mike Mignola. So this is some very early art by Mignola, and it's fantastic. Look at the cover. At number 6, I've got Swamp Thing, issue 37. Most people consider this the first full appearance of John Constantine, or should I say John Constantine, as Alan Moore pronounces the name. I mean, he created the character, so maybe we're supposed to say Constantine. It doesn't come right off my tongue. I've heard it Constantine for so long, but anyway, I digress. This is written by Alan Moore, of course, art by Rick Veitch and John Totleben, 2 of the greatest monster artists that ever were. They really did a great job on the Swamp Thing series, and it is beautiful, beautiful art, and a phenomenal story too. So that's why it is number 6. Yeah, right in the middle of the countdown here, at number 5, I have Marvel Fanfare 24. As you can see, I loved Marvel Fanfare, but this one here, I'm specifically talking about the Weird World story that's contained in here. That is written by Doug Mensch, with art by Mike Plug and P. Craig Russell. I think Plug is doing the pencils and P. Craig Russell inks. Fantastic. This cover here is by P. Craig Russell. I think he both pencil and ink the cover there. And that's the Weird World characters. Really good stuff. I still want a Marvel Gallery edition that collects all of the wonderful Weird World stories into one volume. That would be awesome. I know there was a trade paperback collection that came out, and I think there was even a slim hardcover that came out once. I think I had that one, and the art was all crammed up in the binding. It was terrible. Terrible example of a collected edition. So like I said, this cries out for a gallery edition. Really does. At number 4, I have Moon Shadow issue 1. Now this was an Epic limited series on Marvel's Epic sub-label, you might call it. And this was written by J.M. DeMatteis, with art by John J. Muth. And I believe it's watercolors. It certainly looks like watercolors. It is just beautiful, really awesome art here. And this is somewhat indescribable. It's sort of a sci-fi fantasy, whimsical adult kind of fairy tale, if you will. Kind of a coming-of-age story, but set out in space, and it goes back in different ages, and it really is hard to describe, but I loved it. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. My daughter did not like this book. She couldn't finish it. And what I have here is the cover to the hardcover, the deluxe hardcover edition that collects all 12 issues in one. A really nice hardcover. I think Dark Horse put that out. But I did read it in that format. But this came out in 1985, the first issue did. And I really, really loved it. Yeah, it's, like I said, it's kind of a dark fantasy. I think the tone is somewhat similar to Brazil, a movie I mentioned earlier. There's really nothing else. There's no other similarities, but the tone is sort of similar. And I really loved it. And that's why it's number 4 in my countdown. And number 3, I have Daredevil issue 227. This is written by Frank Miller with art by David Mazzucchelli. I think that's how you pronounce it. Hopefully I got that one right. But this is the first issue of what became known as the Born Again story arc. And, you know, you might remember Born Again is the name of the new Disney Plus Daredevil series, which has some similarities, but it's not a perfect, page-by-page adaptation at all. But it does draw a lot from this. And the David Mazzucchelli art is fantastic. The story is super powerful. And I'm not going to give away anything about this plot here. You need to read this. If you're a Daredevil fan, you got to read the Born Again arc. Fantastic. At number 2, I have ElfQuest issue 1. This is the Marvel Epic reprinting, somewhat reformatted version of the first ElfQuest storyline. Of course, by the awesome team of Wendy and Richard Pini. Been pronouncing that wrong so long. I was always saying Penny, but it's Pini. And really, Wendy Pini does the art, and she writes, like, I want to say she's 95% the creator behind this, but Richard helped, I think, with some plot ideas and some editing and whatnot. So he's always listed too. But yeah, this is a tour de force of really good art and good storytelling. And it is an epic fantasy about this little colony of elves. And I'm not going to give away any more about it. If you haven't read ElfQuest, you're really missing out. Dark Horse is now collecting these in color. And for the first time, I think, that I know of anyway, in a hardcover, colored version, but the colors on the new hardcovers are by Wendy Pini herself. Now, the colors in this, the Marvel Epic line of books, it ran 32 issues, collected the whole first ElfQuest Epic. It was colored by Marvel's Glenys Oliver. And it's good. It's really good. It's the first way I read ElfQuest was in this format. And I am looking forward to reading the Dark Horse hardcovers now, too. And I'm wondering if it's going to be the same formatting as this, or if it's going to be slightly different since, Wendy Pini and Richard Pini are in control of it now without Marvel's influence here at all, including the colors, like I said. So, I don't know. I think I'm going to reread it I think there's going to be 4 or 5 volumes of it come out. I'm going to reread it in that format. But these are great, too. And these are easy to get. I got a lot of mine from dollar bins. They're not pricey. Not all of them. I had to pay a little bit for some of them, but yeah, it's a great series, and so that is why it is number 2 in my top 10 favorite comics of 1985. Now, my number 1 pick for 1985 in comics is something that I think a lot of people aren't even aware of, and I think it's an undiscovered gem. It really is. Undiscovered by a lot of people anyway. This is Gargoyle, the miniseries. Gargoyle was a character in The Defenders. I think created by J.M. DeMatteis, which he wrote this miniseries. The art in it is by Mark Badger. It's really good. This cover is by Bernie Wrightson, and I love it. This was a 4-issue mini, and man, this thing is powerful. It is an emotionally packed story, which, I love those. And Isaac Christian is the gargoyle that eventually becomes a defender, and he's an old man who made an unfortunate deal with a demon, and his soul ended up being trapped in this, what was a stone gargoyle, and it's brought to life, and now Isaac Christian is trapped in this body. And that's kind of his origin. And this story has him going back to his hometown, where he makes some really horrifying discoveries about his old body, which is now inhabited by the demon that was in the garden. It's hard to explain, but it's definitely worth reading. It's really good. If you can track down this, do it. And I think I'm wondering if this is in the Defenders Omnibus. Let me go check that, and I'll be right back. Well, so far there are 2 volumes of Defenders Omnibus hardcovers out, and it doesn't look like either one of them has this miniseries in there. But I guess that kind of makes sense. They're not very far into the Defenders run yet, really. I mean, they're not 1985 far, it doesn't look like. So I'm thinking it should be in volume 3. But meanwhile, if you want to track down these back issues, it's worth your time, because this is a really great story by one of the greatest writers of the 80s, really, and beyond, is J.M. DeMatteis. And that's why it is number 1 in my top 10 favorite comics of 1985. Hope you like taking a quick look at these. And if you did like this top 10, go back and look at the previous, 4. And I'm going to continue this series. I'm going to cover all of the 80s. And then I think I'm going to go back to 1970, maybe. I don't know. Might do that decade, too. So, hope you like taking a look at this. And if you like this channel and you like this kind of video, please hit subscribe if you haven't already. And give me a thumbs up. and I'll see you next time.